just let me know if the computer sound is clear and it is coming.
Near field, set resonance frequency. Okay.
Yes, sir, we can hear it.
Yes, fantastic.
Okay, we'll be discussing.
I'll record the sessions now itself, and it would be easy for you to look into it. And one thing, just I wanted to discuss with you, Saturday from 6 to 6:40, you will have 15 marks quiz, evening, 6 to 6:45, okay? 6 to 6:45, and some 15 minutes will be given for you for uploading. It's objective type, so you don't have to worry much. So just we will fix somewhere around 15 question, means 30 minutes would be sufficient, and buffer time of 15 minutes will be given to you for uploading or whatever. Uploading is not required, since if you submit it will go. So 6 to 6:45 you will have quiz on Saturday based on all these 3 experiments. Today we will be running 2 experiments. Based on these 3 experiments, some simple questions, fundamental questions, okay? Anyway, you have manuals with you, so it would be easy for you to go through once, and if you listen to the video lectures properly, then it would be easy for you to score 15 on 15, that's for sure.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, is it possible to shift the time a bit, because a few of us have a PE extra class on that day, and sir said that long back. So like from 6 to 7:30 we have an extra class that day.
Okay.
Computer vision. So is it
Okay.
possible to shift it to like 5 o'clock or something, so that we can attend
fine.
both?
5 to 5:45, shall we make it?
Yes, sir, that is
5 to
fine.
5:45 would be good.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Sagar?
Yes, sir. That should be fine, sir.
Yeah, 5 to 5:45 will
5 to
make.
5:45, sir.
Yes. 5 to 5:45, okay. Saturday. Yeah, that would
yes,
be.
Sir.
Yes, fine. Shall we start then? There are only 79 students, but we'll wait for 2 minutes. We'll see.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Sir, shall we start?
Yes, sir. We'll start. There are 100 students, so within 2 minutes we'll start. Yes. Now I'll.
Yeah, 124 attendees are there.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so we are resuming our lab sessions today. So in today's session, we will be covering 2 experiments. Experiment based on microstrip antennas and experiment based on microstrip components. So these 2 experiments will be covered today. And based on these experiments, like we have after this session, we'll be completing 3 experiments. So one, we have completed VSWR experiments. Today we'll be covering microstrip antennas and microwave component experiments. So altogether 3 experiments, you will be having a quiz of 15 objective type questions, like MCQ questions, and that will be held on Saturday. That we will discuss once these lab sessions are over.
Yeah, I've told them, sir. I've told them. Yeah. 5 to 5:45 Saturday. Fantastic. Yes. Then we'll start with the sessions. I hope the screen is visible and voice is also audible. So let me increase this. Okay. Then we'll start.
Near field to set resonance frequency. Okay, we'll be discussing today.
Is it audible?
Yes, sir.
We'll be discussing today experiment number 4, that is microstrip antenna, that is according to the format which is given in class. So this microstrip antenna comes under experiment number 4, and in this particular experiment we are going to take the far field pattern of a dipole antenna both in E and H plane. So let us see how to perform this experiment. So this is the manual which you already have. So this is the plane of antenna which is concentrated on E plane, and this is H plane. So when we are taking the reading of E plane far field pattern, so both our antenna should be in same orientation. Suppose I have set up our antenna for E plane measurement. So if you can see, this is your transmitting antenna and this one is your receiving antenna. Why this is receiving antenna? Since we are receiving and we are directly seeing the power over here. So this is VSWR power meter, which will directly show you the power received at the corresponding frequency which you are tuning here. So in order to, and this is a passive detector, in order to enhance the received power, since you will be having lot of distortions, so in order to have some received power which can be easily analyzed, we are using active detector rather than passive detector. Since you might have seen the passive detector will be of this type, so we are not using for this experiment, since the received power will be very less, since more distortions or interferences are there in this lab. So we are, as a case, using an active detector, and this active detector is continuously supplied power from this power source which you can see here. So let us see what are the experiments devices which we have in order to perform this far field radiation pattern for your dipole antenna. So we have at transmitting end the microwave signal source, which you have to vary the frequency from 1.9 to 3.3 gigahertz. So at different frequency you have to take the radiation pattern. So irrespective of that, first we will set the resonance frequency of this particular dipole antenna by setting this antenna to near field, and then we'll keep that resonance frequency constant, and in that resonance frequency we'll be taking the readings in E and H plane. So let us see what are the various components. So this is signal source.
So you got muted.
Sir, sound is not there.
Sir, excuse me, sir. So the video isn't audible.
Yeah. Just play, sir.
Sir is on mute.
Yeah, video is sorry, audio is not there. Just check, Gautam, sir.
Sir, I think sir is muted.
Detected power from this particular transmitting dipole antenna. Okay, so now let us first set the resonance frequency of this antenna. So this particular arrangement is shown in E plane. So now we
Sir,
have
can you start from the start?
Particular E plane antenna.
Again, because we missed most of it.
In order to do so, we will vary this frequency from here. Now I have kept both the antennas transmit.
Start from the beginning.
Gautam, sir, can you start? Yeah, you can start from the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be discussing today experiment number 4, that is microstrip antenna, that is according to the format which is given in class. So this microstrip antenna comes under experiment number 4. And in this particular experiment, we are going to take the far field pattern of a dipole antenna both in E and H plane. So let us see how to perform this experiment. So this is the manual which you already have. So this is the plane of antenna which is concentrated on E plane, and this is H plane. So when we are taking the reading of E plane far field pattern, so both our antenna should be in same orientation. Suppose I have set up our antenna for E plane measurement. So if you can see, this is your transmitting antenna and this one is your receiving antenna. Why this is receiving antenna? Since we are receiving and we are directly seeing the power over here. So this is VSWR power meter, which will directly show you the power received at the corresponding frequency which you are tuning here. So in order to, and this is a passive detector, in order to enhance the received power, since you will be having lot of distortions, so in order to have some received power which can be easily analyzed, we are using active detector rather than passive detector. Since you might have seen the passive detector will be of this type, so we are not using for this experiment since the received power will be very less, since more distortions or interferences are there in this lab. So we are, as a case, using an active detector, and this active detector is continuously supplied power from this power source which you can see here. So let us see what are the experiments devices which we have in order to perform this far field radiation pattern for your dipole antenna. So we have at transmitting end the microwave signal source, which you have to vary the frequency from 1.9 to 3.3 gigahertz. So at different frequency you have to take the radiation pattern. So irrespective of that, first we will set the resonance frequency of this particular dipole antenna by setting this antenna to near field, and then we'll keep that resonance frequency constant, and in that resonance frequency we'll be taking the readings in E and H plane. So let us see what are the various components. So this is signal source, this is your transmitting part, and this particular setup forms your receiving part. So this receiving parts consist of your active detector as well as your power, where you are seeing, that is VSWR power meter, where you are seeing the total detected power from this particular transmitting dipole antenna. Okay, so now let us first set the resonance frequency of this antenna. So this particular arrangement is shown in E plane. So now we have to set the resonance frequency of this particular E plane antenna. So in order to do so, we will vary this frequency from here. Now I have kept both the antennas, transmitting as well as receiving antenna, close enough to each other. So in order to have maximum power received in this particular scenario, such that we can get resonance frequency easily. Now having set this particular antenna very close to each other, mouth to mouth distance, now we will vary this particular frequency from here, that is microwave signal source. We will tune the frequency, and corresponding to that tuning we will correspondingly note down the power over here. So at one particular frequency where you will be getting maximum power, that will act as your resonance frequency, and that resonance frequency will be constant throughout your experiment, and on that resonance frequency only you have to take E plane pattern and H plane pattern. So now let us see the variation. So when I vary like this, now the frequency by this arrangement, I have kept frequency at 1.9 gigahertz. Corresponding to this 1.9 gigahertz, we are somewhere receiving the power around, you see the second last line corresponds to dB, and we have to see this particular line for calculation of our power. Here there are 4 lines: SWR, standing wave ratio, expanded SWR, then dB, then expanded dB. So we are concerned with only dB scale, so which is the second last one, dB. So dB is ranging from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to 10. So this is this side of 0, so we can consider this at -1, -2, -3, -4, -5 up to -10 dB. So now at that particular frequency band, in that scenario, we are receiving somewhere around C. Now the reference line of this tuner range is around 40. So 40, that means now we have this particular pointer around somewhere 2.4. So it is 0. So minus 2.4 minus 40, that is minus 42 dB. You are receiving the power at this particular frequency, that is around 1.9 gigahertz. Now let us tune it at which particular frequency we are getting maximum power. So I'll show for another frequency how we are tuning. Now it is 1.9 will go for 2.2 gigahertz. So at 2 gigahertz, if you see, it is somewhere around 3. So now the power is -3 -40 -43 dB. So if you want, you can similarly tune over the entire frequency range, and now we will brush it up and we'll go directly tune, sir, at which frequency we are getting maximum. Go on tuning, sir. Go on tuning. Go on tuning. Go on tuning. Go on tuning. So go on tuning.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, how do we determine the dB range on the VSWR meter? Like, sir took 40, right? So how do we determine that it's a sort of power band that we have to take, and then we have to vary the frequency accordingly?
See, first of all, you have to see whether if the scale, the range knob is there. No, the range knob will give you the deflection in the SWR meter. Now, once you vary, let's suppose it is in the 0 dB range, let's say. Now you don't get a full scale deflection or a scale deflection. Now increase the steps in terms of 10 dB, 20 dB, 30 dB. We have increased up to 40 dB. Then the sliding contact or the power meter shows up some value at the 40 dB range. That is through your just incremental positions of the range. Okay.
So the thing is, sir, if we get any, if we tune it to any range as such, and if we get no deflection because the value is out of range, so we can't use it. It will not be
out of range. The value will not be out of range. The value will be very less so that it will not detect that.
Okay, sir. Understood. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, tune it all. So similarly like this, we have to tune for the entire frequency band, and correspondingly we have to note down the power over there. So if you see through this setup, so it is continuously varying through this setup around 2.5 gigahertz we will be getting the resonance frequency. So continuously if you tune, so correspondingly if I am putting, so 2.5 gigahertz you will be getting around the resonance frequency. 2.5 gigahertz approximately will be getting the resonance frequency. So we'll keep this resonance, sorry, somewhere around here we are getting 2.5 gigahertz the resonance frequency, and now we'll keep this resonance frequency as it is, and we will stretch this to far field direction, and then we will calculate the far field pattern of your dipole antenna. So in order to do so, what we will do, we will first calculate, we know the formula, we have the formula for calculating far field distance, that is R is equal to 2D square by lambda. So that is R is equal to, that is R should be very greater than 2D square by lambda. Now this D is nothing but the maximum dimension of your antenna. So here maximum dimension of antenna I am talking about this dipole antenna, and this lambda is nothing but the resonance frequency wavelength. So lambda is nothing but C by F. So F we have set to around 2.5 gigahertz. So now let us calculate lambda. Lambda is nothing but, since we will calculate in terms of centimeter, since this distance is very small, so we'll take C as 3 into 10 to the power of 10 divided by frequency is 2.5 into 10 to the power of 9. So somewhere we'll get around some lambda value. So just so this we will be getting around 12 centimeter. So lambda we got as 12 centimeter. Now the unknown component here is d. D is the nothing but the maximum dimension of your antenna. So in order to calculate maximum dimension of antenna, you need to take a scale, and from that scale you need to roughly will calculate the maximum dimension of your antenna. So just keep, and somewhere around till copper part you see, so it is around 4.7. It is around 4.7 centimeter. So this is centimeter. So now you calculate the total range for far field should be very, very greater than how much? 4.5 into 4.5 into 2 divided by 12. So this comes around.
Excuse me, sir.
3.
Sir, what do you mean by the maximum dimension of antenna? Because I feel the width of the antenna was more than the length of the antenna.
No, maximum distance of the antenna means, yeah, please, sir.
Yeah, maximum distance of the antenna means the feeding plane radiating part we'll consider. So it's not the the width or length which you are seeing. It is the total feed part where you have feed point. There you have a dipole length. So that dipole length, which is of copper, constitute the maximum dimension of your antenna. Rest back part is nothing but your ground plane. So when we take calculate with scale, so it is almost in a linear form. So I have taken straight away to the substrate rather than taking width. Width is not the maximum dimension of your antenna. So the part which is just radiating, when you might have done in your lab, you might have seen where that microstrip antenna, we put SMA connector, there a strip line is there. So that strip line is nothing but the radiating part of your antenna. So that forms the maximum dimension of your antenna rather than the ground plane.
Okay, thank you, sir.
375 centimeter. So your far field distance between transmitting antenna and receiving antenna should be very, very greater than this value. So you can keep the distance between your transmitter and receiver around 5 centimeter or 7 centimeter or 10 centimeter, any value greater than this. So here we have kept our transmitting and receiving antenna greater than this value, because you see this is a 15 centimeter scale. I have kept the distance around 15 centimeter. We have to consider mouth to mouth distance from your transmitting to receiving antenna. So it is a far field distance which is very, very greater than the required value. That is, critical distance is around 3.375 for far field, but for taking the analysis and taking the pattern, we are extending this distance up to 14 centimeter. You can take it 8 centimeter, 10 centimeter, 12 centimeter, any value very, very greater than 3.3 centimeter. Okay, so this is the arrangement we have done. And now what we have to do, we have to vary the orientation of your antenna, and correspondingly we have to take the value. Now when you do all this arrangement in the starting, you have to keep one more thing, is that your antenna should be facing each other at 0 degree. So here if you see the reference angle I have kept at 0 degree. If it is visible, you can see this particular reference, this is the reference point, and this reference point is designated at 0 degree. This is basically an angle scale, this side and this side throughout 0 to 360 degree you have to move, and correspondingly you have to take the power reading at that concentrated angle. So now this is what we are getting at face to face distance, like E plane distance, far field distance at 0 degree. The correspondingly power is around minus 43 degree. 40 here, this particular scale is at minus 3, so minus 43 dB power we are having. So let us take the readings. So we'll take reading at 0 degree, 10 degree up to 360 degree, and this is E plane reading, E plane far field reading, E plane far field reading. So this is angle and this is the magnitude. Okay. So at 0 degree, how much we are getting? Around minus 43 dB. Okay. Now this is angle 0 dB, and by default 0 degree and 360 degree value remains the same. Now we'll show you some values, and similarly you have to repeat for the entire angle, and you have to perform this experiment. Then you have to draw the polar graph of this. So I'll now vary this particular angle to 10 degree. So it is varied, and you have to vary the receiving antenna. Your transmitting antenna will be fixed at that particular resonance frequency. Now I have rotated it to 10 degree. Corresponding to this, if you see the values over here, the value has now little bit decreased, or somewhat it is now around 2.6. So now minus 40. Sorry, minus 2.6 minus 40, so it is 42.6. So at 10 degree you are getting the value as minus 42.6 dB. Similarly, you will take the reading at 20 degree. So now this particular scale is at minus 20, if you can see. So with this orientation, if you see, the power is now around 2.8. Power is at around 2.8. So now the total, and this reference range is 40. So minus 2.8 minus 40, it is minus. So now 20 degree, it is minus 42.8 dB. So variations will be there. So you have to take it accordingly up to 0 to 360 degrees. Similarly, you can vary. I have taken from 0, 20, 10, 20. Now you have to vary from here minus 350. Then you have to note down the value. Then you have to take minus 340. Then you have to note down the values. Similarly, you have to vary to 330. Then you have to note down the values from here. Similarly, so this is just orientation, and then you have to note the correspondingly value from your VSWR meter. So you will be having a range of values. So already we have a range of values. Similarly, once you get the range of values, that will be the E-plane pattern values. E-plane pattern at far field distance. Now similarly, so we have the range of values. Similarly, we'll take for H-plane. So now I will change the orientation of your antenna to H-plane. So in order to do so, first we will set our required orientation to 0 degree. So when you are doing for H-plane, don't change anything. Your resonance frequency will be fixed since your device will be having, since this is particular dipole antenna is made to resonate at 2.5 gigahertz. So in both the plane, resonance doesn't change. So resonance will remain constant whether you are taking E plane or H plane. So at that particular resonance frequency, we have to take the pattern. So now we have taken for E plane. Now we are going for H plane. So H plane, we have to orient the antenna vertical to the reference distance. So vertical, we have arranged. Okay. So we have taken like this. So now similar things will be done, that you have to take now H plane reading. Now H plane reading. So you have to take at angle and magnitude. So you have to take from again 0 to 360 degree, 20, 30, 40 up to 360 degree, and correspondingly you have to note down the magnitude. So for 0 degree, it is now at around 3, almost 3. So minus 43 dB we are getting. Now I'll change the angle to 10 now. So it is now just a little bit deviated. 9 you can take. So it is minus 43.9, minus 43.9 dB. Similarly, sorry, minus 42.9, minus 42.9 dB. And similarly, same you can take for 20, 30, 40. And similarly, you can take for anti-clockwise also 350, 340, 330, and we have to note down the corresponding value of it. So once you have noted down the value for H plane and E plane, when you have these values at the resonance frequency, 2.5 gigahertz. So since this is a interference dependent experiment. So it is not possible that all of you will get the same resonance frequency. For some it will be 2.52 gigahertz depending upon the interferences in the lab. But ideally what a specification is given by manufacturer, this particular antenna operates at or resonates at 2.5 gigahertz. So try to more or less set this resonance frequency from your this particular experiment by the above said method, whatever I have explained. Now you have to plot the polar plot. So this will be the scenario, this will be the structure of your polar plot, where you will be having a circle and then you will be having a vertical lines cutting that particular circle. So this particular structure is nothing but a polar plot. So here this particular what you are seeing, this, if I take in 2D, if you see, this will represents your angle, this will represents your angle, and this circle will represents your magnitude value. Okay, so we'll start from here. This is 0 degree line. So I can take depending upon the distance you can make it. So you want to take from here to here. Now I'll take 90. So you divide equally 0 to 90. How you have to take the scale? You divide the number of division from here to here, divide it into 90 parts. Then this will be 180 and this will be 270. So yeah, this is 270. Now this based on your observing values. Suppose I'll take this as minus 15 dB. Then this circle I will take as minus 10 dB. Then this I will take as minus 5 dB. This I will take as 0 dB. This I'll take as 5, 10, 15, like this. Based on the values what you are getting, you have to take this particular circle scale for magnitude, and this cutting represents your angle. Okay, so now for this particular values we have a plotted graph. So for dipole antenna you will be getting this type of pattern in E plane and H plane. So as theoretically we have studied in our literature means antenna, that for a dipole antenna you will be getting in E plane 8-shaped direction. So as you can see, it is not a perfect 8 shape since interferences are there. So this represents your practical measurement scenario, because you will be having some distortion. Because of that distortions you are getting little bit different shape, but it is more or less analogous to 8 shape. It's clearly visible, it is analogous to your 8 shape. So this particular represents your E plane pattern. You can see this E plane pattern. So for a dipole antenna we have in E plane 8 plane structure, 8-shaped structure, and for H plane we have 0-shaped structure. In H plane we have 0-shaped structure. So basically for lab purpose, for BTech, we take this particular reading of this antenna in your normal scenario, but strictly speaking, when you are doing your practical measurement for any commercial application or for research application, all these things are performed in your anechoic chamber, where you have absorbers. So all this interference can be reduced and your pattern will be more or less oriented towards the ideal scenario. Since here lot of disturbance are there, in disturbance means interferences, electromagnetic devices, electronic devices are there, so there will be electromagnetic interference. Obviously there are this bench, desk, then you have other CROs, other electronic gadgets, we have mobile with us. So all these things creates a disturbance, interferences to this particular received power, and because of this shape is more or less distorted. But when you are doing all these antennas for commercial application, like for GSM antenna or for mobile application or for 5G application, all these things EMI, EMC are taken care into anechoic chamber, which is a dedicated facility to measure the received power level or gain or efficiency for your antenna. So this is how we perform this particular experiment of your microstrip antenna, taking far field consideration, their radiation pattern at far field. Similarly, you can take for any type of antenna. Now this I have shown you for dipole antenna. You can take similarly like microstrip antenna, horn antenna, any antenna whichever you want to take. Similarly, you have to take the far field pattern of your antenna. So that's all. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, there is a connected video.
Yeah, till now we have seen the far field pattern of your antenna. Now, from this particular pattern, we have to calculate directivity. So you know the directivity formula is nothing but approximately it is D is equal to how much it is 41253 divided by theta E into theta H. That is theta is nothing but half power beamwidth in E plane and half power beamwidth in H plane. So now you see how to calculate theta E and theta H. So we'll first see how to calculate theta E. So now theta E, if you see this particular pattern, this is of E plane pattern. So wherever you are getting the maximum radiation, that means the maximum point of your radiation, suppose I consider we get here. So from here you have to go 3 dB down. So whatever scale you have taken, with that scale you just minus 3 dB. So suppose now this is around 56. So sorry, this is now around 53.5. So this is around 53.5 dB, minus 53.5 dB. So now you go 3 dB down. So minus 53 dB down means 3 dB down from here to here will be around 52.5, somewhere here 52.5, correct? No, so this is 53.5, sorry, 53.5 minus 3 means 50.5, somewhere here you will get. So somewhere here minus 50.5 dB. So now obviously when you will get, you will see this particular lining will be coming, this particular lining will be coming, obviously it will be there. So this particular line, extend it, and where it cuts the major lobe, you mark that particular point, and from there you just see how much angle it makes with the reference distance. So now also this point cuts here, so here. So what is the total angle from here to here is nothing but theta E. So from here to here, if you see, this is at 90 degrees. So 90 from here it is 45. So this angle if we consider from here to here, so it is 45, and same this angle if we consider from here to here also it is 45. So theta E is around 90 degree. Okay, similarly you have to go for H plane. So now if you see the values of H plane, so when you are taking far field pattern, you just see the values should not change, it will be almost constant. So if you see the values is almost constant. If you are getting the far field pattern with constant value, then by default you think, okay, I am getting zero shape pattern. So that is you are going towards in a correct direction. So this is another alternative to verify your result whether you are getting correct pattern or not. Okay. So again from here you have to calculate the from wherever is the maximum point, since you will be having little bit variation. From there you have to go 3 dB down, and again you have to calculate. So similarly that will give you theta H. Similarly how we have followed for theta E, similarly you will be getting theta H. So correspondingly you will get theta E and theta H, and with this particular formula put the values of theta E, theta H, and calculate the directivity, and that directivity will be. So if you take 10 log of that value, it will be in dB. Okay. Yeah.
Any clarifications? Any doubts?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
So with the H-plane readings that we have, they were very uniform, like we saw. So if there is no intersection of the graph with the minus 3 dB circle, then what to do?
How it will not intersect? It should intersect, no? If you are getting even values.
When you will go 3
Definitely
dB down, it will intersect, no, Yuvraj.
Sir, on the plot, the scale is logarithmic or linear?
No, normal. It is not a logarithmic plot. It's a normal plot. It's a normal polar plot between angle and dB. That's all. It's not a semi-log plot.
Okay. Next, we'll go for the next experiment, that is microstrip components. Okay, there are 3 parts in this video. Just look at this.
So, welcome to the next experiment. So next experiment we are having, that is experiment number 5, that is microstrip component. So you all will be having a manual with you, that is written microstrip components experiment number 6, but according to our lab this is experiment number 5. So here we will be seeing basically two devices performance characteristics. One is your ring resonator and another one is your branch line coupler. So branch line coupler is nothing but it is more or less similar to your directional coupler, with where directional coupler you have coupling phenomena. Here you have a complete short circuit between the primary and secondary guide. So here you can see it is a 4 devices. So for better understanding what are those ports, so we'll go with manufacturer specification. If you see, it is written here T Techni Lab. So as per the manual given by Techni Lab, we'll be considering this as port 1. Then this will be your corresponding opposite to port 1 will be your port 2. Then horizontally to port 2 will be your port 3. And back opposite to port 3 will be your port 4. Similarly, in simple terms, wherever you are taking port 1, up to it will be your port 4. In front of it will be your port 2, and up to port 3 will be your port 2 will be your port 3. Okay, so this is a symmetrical device. You can take anywhere. I can move it like this. Then you can take this as port 1. This is as port 4. This is at port 2. This is at port 3. So it's up to you. So we'll take like this. So how we have kept. So this is your port 1. This is your port 4. This is your port 2. This is your port 3. So more purposely, this is your port 1. This one is your port 1. This is your port 2. This is port 3. This is port 4. So if you reverse it, or if you take symmetric also, then also this becomes port 1. This is port 4. This is port 2. This is port 3. So now you understood. So now correspondingly you already know which ports corresponds to what, which is your input port, which is, suppose if I'm feeding power at here, so this becomes your input port. So like this you know which are those ports. Okay. Ports means I'm telling about insertion port, isolation port, and directivity port, how you have to take. Okay, so now we have to find the power at correspondingly each port. Power at port 1, power at port 2, power at port 3, and power at port 4. Then you will be calculating the different values corresponding to that, and you have to plot the graph. Then you have to calculate what is the isolation, what is the directivity of this particular branch line coupler. So now, so when we talk about calculating power at each port, so if you see, this is the setup of this particular experiment, where you will be having a microwave source, where it will show a frequency from 1. Suppose say 8 to 3.1 gigahertz. It is a span around, and this will and here this is VSWR meter, where you will be seeing the received power at each corresponding frequency. Now when I talk about this particular branch line coupler calculation of power at each port, now if you see, if I simply connect my input, so this is the procedure to calculate your power at input. So I'm not taking anything, so I am just telling you, if I'll directly put this particular input at this power at port 1, then obviously I have to connect any other line at, suppose now I want to take power at output at P2, so I have to take power output at P2, so I'll be connecting like this here, And obviously this is not a detector, this is a simple passive device. So we have to detect the power coming out this particular port. So obviously we have to place a detector in series connection with this particular port. So this is the data. Whatever power is coming at this particular port 2 will be detected by this particular detector, and the same detector will show this detected power at this VSWR meter in terms of dB. So already I have told you in antennas also, like there will be 4 lines. The second last line, which is designated as dB, will be represented red color line. dB will be red color line, which is designated at dB, will be required to calculate your receipt power in reference to this particular range where we will be putting. Okay, now see, so the concept which I was telling, suppose if you want to measure the power at port 1, so this is not the method how you will measure the power at port 1. Why? Because you are feeding the power at port 1, but you are taking output power from port 2. So this will give you the power at port 2. So suppose same thing, if you put it here by terminating this with 50 ohm load, you will get power at port 3. Similarly, if you will terminate port 2, port 3, and you will put this particular output at this particular port, you will be getting power at port 4. Then how we will calculate the power at this particular port? We don't have this particular device which will give you the power at port 1. So whatever power is coming at this particular port, we will simply place a detector, and in the initially only we will see at this particular port this much power will be coming. For this we don't require this particular device. Similarly, at each frequency we will detect what power we are getting. So for that we require only detector at that particular frequency, how much power is coming to that particular port. So if you take this arrangement, similarly at correspondingly frequency you are putting this as an input, and the same power at that particular frequency you are detecting, and it is shown here in VSWR meter. So when you connect this device, so obviously you will be knowing at that what frequency how much power is coming, because already you have measured by this particular method the power at each frequency, and the same input you will be giving at this particular port 1. So at each correspondingly frequency, earlier only you will be knowing what is the power coming at this frequency, and then you have to calculate the power at rest of the port. So in order to calculate the power at port 1, what we need to do, we have to just connect a detector to this particular microwave signal source where you will vary the frequency, and at each correspondingly frequency we have to note down the power. Okay. So now let us start this. Now we'll calculate, and this remains same for your ring resonator also. Since you have to, ring resonator is also a 2-port device. See, you have to give it power at port 1, and then you have to find the power at port 2. So whatever power is coming for this ring resonator or for this particular branch line coupler remains the same, because frequency is same. You will be varying from 1.8 to 3.1. So obviously whatever power at one particular frequency is coming, which you are utilizing for your branch line coupler or for ring resonator remains the same. So power at port 1 for both the device remains the same. So this is how we have to calculate the power at port 1 for both the devices. Now I'll show 1 or 2 examples how to calculate the power, then we'll calculate the power for branch line coupler for other ports. So now we will on it. So when you are owning, it is S-band power, it will show you from 1.8 to 3.1 gigahertz, something 2 to 3, just it's vary. So you have to see here tuning voltage. Corresponding to this tuning voltage, you will be getting frequency, which is basically voltage control oscillator. So here you have to tune. So I have kept this tuning at min position. If I vary, it will move. So it starts from 1.908 gigahertz. Now I will turn on this power meter. So now you are clearly seeing. Now you are clearly seeing what power you are getting. Now let us calculate. For example, for 1 or 2 frequency, I will show you how much you are getting. So if you can see, so 1.908 gigahertz starting frequency, same power, same frequency, the power is detected, how much power is coming from this particular frequency, and it is shown here. Now you see how much power you are getting. So you have to make 2 columns. One column will be of frequency, and one column will be of power. Now you are calculating this power at which frequency? Power at P1. Power at port 1 we are calculating. Now what is the starting frequency? 1.9 gigahertz. Okay, or directly you can give here frequency in gigahertz. So you can directly write 1.9. So 1.9 gigahertz, you see how much power you are getting here. So as I told you, this is 0. So left hand side you are going, this is 0, this is -1, -2, -3, -4, -5 up to -10. Now this particular pointer for calculating the received power, we have to see the dB scale. The dB scale is red color one, second last line, not expanded dB, only dB you have to see. So dB, where this particular deflector is now, pointer is pointing 0, 1, it is somewhere around 1.4. 6 is here, 8, 2, second one, no? It is around 1.2 you can take. Correct, no sir?
Yes.
1.2 you can take. So this is 0, so this is left hand side. This is -1.2. -1.2, then where is the range here? Range, if you see this red, white color pointer, it is pointing towards where? 20. So -1.2 minus 20 is around -21.2 dB is the power received at 1.9 gigahertz. Okay, now we'll vary the frequency. Suppose now I'll vary the frequency to So now I'll vary the frequency to 2.1 gigahertz. So 2.1 gigahertz, as soon as I vary the frequency 2.1 gigahertz. Now you can see it is pointing at 1. So -1 minus 20. It is -21 dB. Okay. Similarly, you have to calculate for all the frequency. 1.9 to 3.3 gigahertz. Similarly, you will be having all the ranges from here to here, and you have to calculate the frequency, what frequency value you are getting at this particular VSWR meter. So that will be the power at port 1. Similarly, you have to calculate for up to 3.3 gigahertz. So you have to note down the power at port 1. Now you will be having power at that particular port 1. Now what we have to do, you know what is the power coming at port 1. Now we'll put our branch line coupler over there, and then we will calculate the values corresponding to it. So now this is port 1. So you already know how much power is coming at port 1. How much power is coming at port 1. Now I want to calculate powers at port 2 at all the frequencies. Similarly, you calculate power at port 3 at all the frequencies. Similarly, you calculate power at port 4 at all the frequencies. And then you see what is given in your manual, and accordingly you plot all the graphs, since you will be having values and you require a normal graph sheet to plot all these values. So it becomes easy, and then you can calculate directivity, isolation, whatever you want. Okay. So now I will be putting detector. So now I want to calculate power at port 2. So again, I'll go back to my initial position. So that is starting frequency 1.9 gigahertz. And at this 1.9 gigahertz, you already know how much power is coming at port 1. That is -21.2 dB. So -21.2 dB, you know this much power is coming. So now you have to calculate the power at port 2. So now when you are calculating power at port 2, make sure the other two ports which are now open, this is called as open condition of this port. If you are putting that port at open condition, you will be having lot of losses. So you have to terminate this port to a perfect matching load. So that load is nothing 50 ohm matching load. So this basically are nothing but 50 ohm matching load. If you see, it is written over here 50 it is written here, plus minus 50 approximately. Okay, so we will terminate this with a 50 ohm load. So port 3, when you are taking power at port 2, your port 3 and correspondingly port 4 should be matched. So now obviously you have given your input to what? -21 dB. So from port 1 -21.2 dB power is coming. So obviously when you are getting this power at port 2, obviously you have to get less power as compared to 21.2 dB. If you are getting below this, that means if you are getting minus 20, minus 19, then that is wrong. Because you are supplying minus 21, you cannot get beyond, you cannot get less value, like more value as compared to what you are feeding. So now if you see at same 1.9 gigahertz without doing anything, from port 2, how much power is coming? It is coming around minus 25. It is, yeah, almost if you take, it is 4.85, minus 5 here, minus 5 dB. And now range is at, so if you see here, it is close to 5, that is 0, that is minus 5, 0, minus 1, minus 2, minus 1. It is around minus 5 dB. And minus 5 dB range is at where? 20. I have not changed the range. So it is minus 25 dB. So the power at port 2, at the same frequency is how much? Minus 25 dB. Obviously, this is less as compared to this, since it is a negative value. So this is more, this is less. So this is how again you have to go for all the values of frequency, and you have to calculate, because at all the frequencies you will be having the input power. So correspondingly, for the same frequency, you calculate the power at port 2. Similar method you have to follow at port 3. Now you want to calculate power at port 3. What you do? Put your terminator at port 2. Keep your this at port 3. Now the same frequency, I have not changed anything. Your power now is at 2.6. So minus 2.6 dB minus 20. So minus, now the same frequency it is minus 22.6 dB. Obviously it is less. Similarly, now if you want to calculate power at port 4, so what you have to do? Again you have to remove, and similarly you have to calculate for all the frequencies. Why I am telling you? Because it is better to you calculate at all the frequencies and you verify how much power you are getting. Then after that, however is written, you can go and calculate the corresponding values. So we will terminate port 3. If you want to take power output at okay, so now I am calculating power at port 4. Now I have not changed anything. Scenario remains the same. Now you see, where is this particular pointer facing it? Now this pointer is around minus 9 dB, somewhere close to minus 9 dB, obviously. After that it is 10. So minus 9 minus 20. It is now around, it's the same frequency, now it is around minus 29 dB power you are receiving from port 4. So now how much you are feeding the power at port 1? Minus 21 dB. And at all the ports, how much power you are getting? Less than that feeded value. So you make sure when you are getting reading, this pattern follows. Whatever you are giving, you should receive less value as compared to that particular port. So calculate for all the frequencies. Now suppose if you want to give power at port 2, so obviously you put this here of this position. Suppose you want to feed power at port 2. You take this, put it here, terminate this port 1, and wherever you want to take, suppose now for example, you now want to feed power at port 2 and you want to take output at port 3. So do the same thing. So this is port 1, this is port 2. So now you want to feed the power at port 2 and you want to take output at port 3. So this is port 3. So I will terminate this port 1. I will take output at port 3. So now this is how you will make the arrangement, and correspondingly you will note down the values. Okay, so this is the values and how this is, you have to do the arrangement, and correspondingly you have to do the setup and you have to note down the values. Corresponding to this, it becomes very easy to plot the graph, since you will be plotting on a normal graph paper. So you have on x-axis you take frequency, on y-axis you take what value of power you got corresponding to that. So if I tell this is S11, this is S21, this is S13, this is S14, like that. This is S23, this is S24. Okay, This is how you have to calculate the power at different ports. Okay. So this is all about your branch line coupler. And see, you will be having this type of manual and you have to plot the graph correspondingly S31, S41. So this is your S41. If you are putting power at this particular port, so this becomes S41. If you are taking from here to here, then it becomes 31. This becomes S21 since you are taking power corresponding to this reference port 1. If you are taking output here, so it becomes S31. And if you are by putting this as input port as port 1, and if you are taking output at this port, it becomes S41. Okay, so you will be getting this type of graph. After calculating these values, you get that type of graph. So now, in extension to this, another part.
Any questions?
Sir, like if we don't put the matching loads, then will the readings be less than the input, or?
You cannot exactly say the readings will be less or something like that, but contains all the reflections.
Readings will not be correct. Yeah.
Correct.
Reflection will be done and readings will not be correct because it will be like non-terminated load. No, so from there radiations will come, and from there you will get more VSWR towards that line which you have collected. Suppose say from port 1 to port 2, so more VSWR will be formed because you will be getting reflected back power from other ports, and since short circuits are there, so losses will be more.
Okay, sir.
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, will we plot, let's say, P2 by P1, or should we just plot P2? Like whatever value we get in dB?
Same, whatever value you get in dB, that you have to plot for this S21, not P2 by P1. You have to plot S2 because S parameters graph you have to plot. So that means directly you have to plot what is the value of P2 you got. So that is nothing but S21 value.
And so one more question. So how do we get S24?
S24, you have to feed power through port 2 and you have to take output at 4. So that becomes S24.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we'll move on to the last one, ring resonator.
Is this same thing is now applied to your ring resonator. So this is a ring resonator device, and from this ring resonator you have to calculate the resonance frequency of this particular ring resonator. So how to measure that resonance frequency? So the procedure remains almost same. Now see, so you have to put input here, so you have to feed your power here and you have to take this power at the output port. So you will be getting transmission characteristics, S21 basically. So here if you see, this is your input port. So directly if I put this input here to this port, you will be getting power at the output port. If I put it here and if you put this particular scenario over here, you will be getting the power at port 2. So again, in order to measure power at port 1 directly, what you have to do? You have to put a detector and then you have to directly calculate the power at port 1 as we did for your branch line coupler. Procedure remains the same. In the starting only I told you. So now corresponding to that, already we have power at port 1. Power at port 1 already we have calculated in the initially only. We have calculated this power at port 1. So now we'll see what is the power coming out at port 2. So in order to calculate the transmission characteristics or the resonance frequency of a ring resonator, we have to feed the power at port 1 and we will see what power we are getting from port 2. Okay, so I've started from 1.9 gigahertz. Now you can see I am not able to take the reading since this deflector is beyond the range. It goes beyond the range. So I will change my range. I'll change my range. So I will change my range that much so that I can take easily the reading. So it is now around minus 40 dB. So this I can take the values. So I will vary. From here to here, I'll vary this particular frequency, and when I'll vary the frequency, you just see this is changing, 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 this is changing. So at one frequency you will be getting the maximum value of power. So that maximum value of power at which frequency you are getting, that becomes the resonance frequency. For that we have to take the power at each frequency. So I'll show you. So you know what is the power you are getting at port 1. So now we'll calculate power at port 2 for ring resonator. For ring resonator. For ring resonator. So we are calculating now power at port 2. Frequency is around, say 1.9. So 1.9 you are getting how much frequency power? So it is around 7 you are getting. So minus 7 dB minus 40. So you are getting at 1.9 you are getting minus 47. Sorry, minus 47 dB power. Well below it is minus 21. Correct. So similarly you will go. Some values I'll show you. Suppose say
लैब से रिसीवर ही बस सके
say suppose say around 2.58 gigahertz. So if at 2.585 gigahertz you see this pointer is completely towards this side, right hand side. So you are not able to take the reading. What you have to do, you have to decrease the range. Decrease the range. So now how much you are getting? You are getting around 5.5, 6.5. So 6.5 dB minus 6.5 dB minus 20. Minus 20. So similarly you will go and at 2.5 gigahertz how much you are getting? Minus 26.5 dB. So I'll increase the frequency more now. So if I increase the frequency to 2.7, again it is going this side. Totally on right hand side dead end. Again we are unable to take the reading. Again I will change my range. Again I will change my range. So if I change my range to minus 50, sorry 50, so it will be showing in range and I can take the reading. So now how much is the value at 2.7? So at 2.7, how much is the reading? At 2.7 I'll be getting reading around it is somewhere around 0.6 minus 0.6 minus 50. It is minus 50.6 dB. It is well below this. So now you see the trend. It is small, very less, and at 2.5 it is showing good value. So you can plot the graph. So this more or less this will be your resonance frequency. And when you are plotting the graph in a normal graph sheet, you have to plot the graph. This will be your dB value. This will be your frequency value. And obviously all values are below 0. So this is 0 line. This is minus 10, minus 20, minus 30, minus 40. So you will be plotting. So it starts from, so here you will be having range 1.9 to 2.1, 2.5 and 3.1 gigahertz. So at 2.5 you will be getting somewhere around. So your trend will be like this. Like this trend you will be getting. Like this trend. So this becomes the resonance frequency. 2.5 gigahertz becomes your resonance frequency. So this becomes your FR, resonance frequency of your ring resonator. Then you have power at port 2, you have power at, obviously you have power at port 1, then you can calculate the isolation or insertion also. Insertion you can calculate. By calculating the difference between these two ports, you will get the insertion value. But you have to plot the graph for S21. This graph is for S21 transmission characteristics you have to plot to show this is the resonance frequency of your ring resonator. This is how we perform the passive microwave passive devices experiments for branch line coupler and ring resonator. That's all.
Yes, this is about the two experiments what we had thought of. And any questions? If you read the PDF copy what has been given to you, you will come to know better, and you please make sure that you have, because since we have recorded the video, it is available. Just look at the video once again. If you have any clarifications, do let us know. Okay. I don't think there are not a lot of questions because everything is visible. And
Sir,
yeah,
sir, is the S matrix and the power are directly related?
Yeah. Correct. It is same. What you are thinking is correct. Suppose if I am telling P21, it is same as S21.
correct. Perfect.
So when I am telling S21, that means you have to plot the values which you have received at port 2. So that will signify with reference to 1. So that is fine. You don't have to do minus.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? So if there are no questions, you just look at this video because it is recorded. You look at this video once again, hardly it will take 45-50 minutes maximum. Okay, just throw it yourself. Make sure that you have all the concepts with you. Read the procedure what has been given in the manual. At the same time, if you have any queries or clarification, post it on your meeting app and we will try to answer that. And then one more thing. Yeah. Yes.
Test you have explained, no, sir? That will be objective type test.
Yes, it's objective type test, and we have fixed it on Saturday 5 to 5:45. Okay.
So like nobody has any what you call problem in that particular time duration, no? Everybody is comfortable with that time.
Sir, could you repeat the time period again once?
Saturday evening 5 to 5:45.
It will be 3 experiment quiz. That means it is of 15 MCQ.
Yes.
5 marks. 5 plus 5 plus 5. 15 marks MCQs will be there.
Okay.
So that time slot is what do you call comfortable to everyone?
Yeah, hope so.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Then
So from next lab you can explain brief introduction you can give, sir, like what you are going to start.
Yeah, from next session onwards, there will be 3 MATLAB sessions. And anyway, simple MATLAB programs like digital modulation schemes, ASK, BPSK, QPSK, and FSK, or something like that. Okay, all digital modulation schemes will be given to you. Means I'll try to explain how to generate, how to demodulate that signal. Okay.
And that what do you call they need to simultaneously what do you call do it, or like you will just show them?
I'll describe. They can use any platform, may not be MATLAB. If they don't have MATLAB license, it's fine. They can use Scilab, or they can use Octave, free sources, Scilab, Octave, or even Python for that matter. Only the logic should remain the same. That's all.
Yeah. So like you can do simultaneously also. If so, first you go through what sir is teaching in the next lab, and you will be having recorded videos. Accordingly, you can go to any open source platform and try to simulate by your own.
Yeah, that's all. And we will not ask you to write any program in the examination. That's also MCQs only.
It is just a visualization of your modulation scheme, like how that modulation is taking place. That we will show with the help of simulation. That's all. Nothing beyond that.
That's all. That's all. Yes. If you are comfortable with LabVIEW, and if you have proper license with LabVIEW also, then you can use LabVIEW also. It's basically understanding the experiment. How exactly you are going to generate a BPSK and how do you demodulate. Instead of hard wired connection, we are showing it in Simulink or in MATLAB. Yes.
So do we need to submit any scripts for that?
You want to submit? You want to submit? You can submit. It's up to you.
No, not required as of now. Okay. Just learn the experiment.
Learn the experiment. If you want to make a burden on yourself by writing those things, we don't have any problem. You can go ahead and submit to us. We will also enjoy in reading that.
If I will be able to do that, then
don't do
any marks, okay?
Yeah, because everything is there with you. It will just waste of time. So it's better you focus on other things and learning the concept of other subjects, because that will be simply like wastage of your time writing same thing again and again by seeing from your manual. So we don't require those things. You just attend the test properly, whatever you have listen to the experiments. Based on that MCQ, you just give. There is no write-up like you will submit the records and will collect. There is no such things. Instead of that, you utilize that time for something else.
And then one descriptive type of exam for 40 marks will be there at the end of all these experiments. Okay. That
like
is,
like usually you have for external exam for lab, you have no when you will be when you are in college and when we had like regular offline classes. So same thing after completing the experiments, we used to have 40 marks external examination for lab. So that you will be having once your exams like this labs, all 6 experiments are completed, then we'll give you a particular day. So that day you come prepared, and as you will be giving your external exam for labs in offline, the same method you will be following here, but it will be only online. That's all.
Yes, that's all.
Sir, like 2 labs were already completed when we were at
that we are not considering.
You don't worry about Kunal. You don't worry about all those things. Okay, we'll take care of it. We will average it out. You just don't worry about all those things. And if you have missed any lab, we will try to talk to HOD and we will make sure that you don't lose any marks for that.
So anyhow, you are attending this online lab sessions, that is enough. So if at all you have missed any lab over there in
yes, sir. But there are only 190 students available here. 190 students.
So we are generating the attendance now. We don't have any problem.
Anyway, we are generating the attendance over here. That is not fair, sir, because hardly we have reduced experiments as well as compared to all the other labs. This lab is so cool, and these guys are not attending the labs. Means this is
6 experiment 10 into 6, 60 marks like that only you can get if you are writing quiz and all properly. Then 40 marks external will be there. That will be also a normal thing. So you have a golden chance to explore a lot of marks here. But in spite of that, like many of you are not attending. Like I can see only 125 students presently online. So based on the attendance on this online lab, we will be reducing the marks.
Yeah, for sure. We have to do that. This is utter nonsense. So anyway, all the very best. Okay, stay safe and make sure that you have the videos with you, recorded videos, and just look at it. Okay, we will meet on Saturday evening 5 o'clock, 5 to 5:45. You will have a quiz for 15 marks. That will be through Microsoft.
MS Forms.
MS Forms, yes. Fantastic. Thank you, Tanvir sir. See you then.
Then we can leave. Okay. Stay safe, all of you.
Yeah. Tanvir sir, 1 second. You stay online only. Yeah.
Okay.
We will end this meeting and I'll call.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
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 Baba, do you know what's the meaning of Sang-Freud?
Anthropology type आहे. I don't know.